Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Minutes. In these podcasts, I'll be sharing a couple of insights around a particular topic. And today we're going to be talking about confrontation and how to have healthy confrontation with someone. That could be your family, your friends, your partner, whoever it is, your work colleague. But it's something that I think we all need to learn how to do. And it's something that I think so many of us avoid because we've been told confrontation is a negative thing because it causes conflict, that causes disagreement, and ultimately it leads to one party feeling unhappy. However, I think we can reframe confrontation to be a really positive thing. Now, when I studied at Warwick, one of the topics that we learned about was cooking confrontation and why it's so important in organizations to cook the confrontation. When people do not say how they feel, often points are missed, and that can lead to a really, really big deal. Now, taking it back to a personal perspective, whenever I've had a conflict with someone and I haven't addressed how I feel, I always feel worse because I'm someone who's really expressive and I'm someone who likes to be really honest with my relationships. And so if I'm feeling unhappy, I will always say how I'm feeling. If I don't and I feel uncomfortable in that relationship to say how I'm feeling because I feel the other person will overreact, or I feel like they won't understand, or I feel like they'll just completely dismiss my point, it makes me feel like I haven't been heard, and it makes me feel like I have to keep something in. Now, when you keep things in and you're not addressing them, often you can feel really upset, frustrated, and angry. And over time, that can lead to a breakdown of your relationship. And this goes in all senses. Even at work, if you don't address how you feel like there's a problem and you don't feel like you can tell your manager, that problem could lead to an even greater problem. And then you could feel like you were responsible or accountable for it too. Now, I want to talk about the 4 steps that I've curated, probably from my management experience background of doing like the 5 S's or the 4 P's or whatever, all these marketing tools. But I've created 4 C's on how you can handle healthy conflict and confrontation. Now, the overall C, and I guess this is kind of like the 5th C or the first C. Yeah. First C is you have to deal with a situation with compassion. If you are not compassionate, the other person, I don't think, is going to understand your perspective at all. If you go with it all guns blazing and you're really annoyed, the conversation will end there. So make sure you keep the compassion C in mind and make sure you have that throughout the whole conversation, because the whole point to be compassionate is to really understand where the other person is coming from. So compassion is the overall C. So I'm just going to actually separate that and I'm going to go into the first C, which I think you need to start off with, and that is care. Why do you care that this situation has happened? So the marriage video was one of the videos that went viral. And in my comment section, when I asked people what they wanted me to speak about, it was how do you deal with your parents when they're forcing you to get married? So let's just talk about that. And this applies to children, this applies to anything really, but I'm just gonna start off with this marriage example. Now, the first point I would always say is, look, mum and dad, or whoever it is, I understand that getting married for you is a really big pressure. And I really want to explain this conversation from both of our perspectives. So I'm just gonna give you my perspective first and tell you why it's really upsetting me. That's how you start the conversation at the beginning, with compassion. The first point is care. What I mean by care is you really want to tell the other person that you care about your relationship, you care about your friendship, you care about whatever it is, and you really need to let them know that you want to solve this issue, which is why you're talking to them about it today. I always start by saying, you mean so much to me. And if I didn't want to solve this problem and I didn't want to salvage our relationship and I didn't want to grow in our relationship, then I wouldn't be having this conversation. Only because I care about you that I'm confronting this issue, because I don't want it to impact us going forward, because I think it's something that we can get past. Showing someone you care in a conversation automatically helps them feel better about it, because they understand that you want to try and help their relationship. You want to try and help your relationship to grow, and you want to try and have an even better, more impactful, meaningful conversation that's centered around finding a solution, not just talking about the problem. So the first one is, you've obviously talked to your mum and dad, tell them why you care. Look, mum and dad, I love you. I don't want to have a bad relationship with you. I want you to understand that, I really think this is really important. We talk about this because it's really impacting me, and I understand it's impacting you too. Show you care. The second point is around cause. So what has caused you to feel this way? So in the marriage example, I'm feeling really upset that you're constantly making comments at me about getting married, because it really makes me feel like I'm not worthy. It makes me feel like I'm not enough. It makes me feel like I am missing out on things, and it makes me feel like I'm behind. And nobody in life wants to feel like they're behind, whether that's in their studies or their work or life's timeline. And I don't really believe that me not getting married at this moment is a really negative thing. But what it's being told to me as is it is a bad thing. And it's making me feel that no matter what I'm doing well in life This is the prime focus. And for me, I feel that's really sad as a woman or as a man, that I feel that marriage is seen to be a really, really important thing. And without that, I'm incomplete. Now, the third thing, which I think is the most important, and before you have a confrontation with someone, you need to think about their perspective. So the third point would be, I understand for you this is really difficult. And I know that you got married early, and I know all your friends got married early, and I know everyone that you know within your circle has got married early. I also know that a lot of your friends' children are getting married at a similar age to you got married, or even at similar age to me. But that's what's right for them, and that isn't at the moment what's right for me. So I totally get your perspective that you feel like I'm falling behind because we're making direct comparisons. But I don't think this is an area that I can make direct comparisons. Because if I look at it from my perspective, where I'm succeeding in X, Y, Z, and I compare myself to other people who are also trying to succeed in X, Y, Z, I would say that I'm doing better than them. Or I would say that, this element of my life is more important for me right now. You have to understand that not everyone is going to be doing amazing in every single part of their life at the same time. And I feel at the moment that there's loads of other things that I'm focusing on that are making me feel really happy. But this marriage conversation is one thing that's really tearing me down. And I completely get that you're worried for me and you're only saying this out of concern. But I just want you to know that it's really impacting me. What you've done in that part is tell your parents, in this example, why you understand their perspective. And it helps them to see that you're not just being blind and only looking at things from your perspective. For me, one of the things that has kept coming up is you don't understand and you're not even looking at it in a different way. So actually addressing that problem before they say it is really important, because they know that you've taken the time to think about how they feel, which automatically helps them feel better and a lot more understanding of your situation, because you haven't just taken things from your perspective and you haven't been stubborn and you haven't looked at things through one lens. You've actually tried to understand different sides and it's still impacting you. Then the last point is the cure. So the last C is cure. And I think at the end, you need to figure out from your perspective what you can do to solve that problem. So for me, the cure to all of this is that we don't keep having these conversations, because it's not impacting me in a positive way and it's actually bringing me down. Please understand that I am looking for someone, or I am with someone, and it is something that's on my radar. It's not something that I'm ignoring. It's not something that I don't want to do. Now, if you don't want to get married, this is a different conversation, because you say to them, the cure is that at the end of the day, this isn't something I want to do. And I understand for you that's a big shock, but nothing you say is really going to change my mind on this if you're 100% certain you don't want to get married. And so you having these conversations is actually only breaking our relationship apart. And that's something I really, really don't want to do. I understand you don't understand this decision and you don't have to accept it right now. But for me, it's really important that you really try and understand my perspective, because it's something that's really, really important to me. So there's two ways of looking at that, right? And I feel like I'm talking to the camera and I'm really giving it so much depth. But I think that there's two ways of doing that last piece. And it is purely about finding a solution to the problem. If you feel there is no solution to the problem, I think you should state that too. So if a friend has crossed a barrier and you've gone through all those things of why you're upset, but you don't feel like that relationship is right for you, friendship, relationship, whatever, it's really important to say, unfortunately, I don't feel like there is something that I can do about this situation right now, because for me, a boundary has been crossed, and for me, I feel like it's gone too far. And it's really important to close on that. And the reason for that is people know where they stand. That's the most important thing around confrontation, is that people need to know where they stand in life. Because if you don't want to repair the relationship, you should tell them. And if you do want to repair the relationship, you should really find ways that you can. I'm going to say there are certain situations where it's best not to say anything. And I have learned in life that not everything has to have a conversation, because for some people, they aren't going to understand your perspective. It's what they'll do in that situation is turn things around on you. And in that situation, it's just better not to have the confrontation at all. So this applies only to situations where you do want to have a healthy confrontation, where you do want to have a solution at the end of it, and where you do feel like there is something worth salvaging. I hope that was helpful. I know it was really quick and sweet. I hope this framework helps you. I talk about this in detail when I do corporate workshops in terms of a work setting. I talk about it in detail when I do one-to-one workshops from a personal perspective. So if you do want to understand it in a bit more detail, please feel free to drop me a message and I can have a conversation with you around it. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys so much, and I really hope you love this video.